So I like to start with this wonderful metaphor shared by a mystic from Central Asia, from Tajikistan, by the name Mullah Nasruddin. So he walks into a cafe one day and says, "I love the moon and I hate the sun." And he's always very cryptic. And people ask, why? So he says, "I love the moon because it comes when it is dark, brightens the sky, helps me navigate, find my way, and it's beautiful." So people follow up and ask, "Why do you hate the sun?" He says, "I hate the sun because the darn thing comes during the day when it is bright anyways." And the reason I say this is that all of us are connected with each other. And many a times we miss to connect the obvious, that all of us as human beings are a global family. We have different traditions, we have different cultures, we have different languages, we follow, as Rola rightly said, she didn't convert from Christianity to Islam or Judaism, and so on. So we all are one big human family. Bless you. So it's such an honor to share this beautiful morning with all of you about what is really Islam and who are these people called Muslims like myself. So I'll share this with you for probably about 40 or so minutes, and then we will have some Q&A. But you're more than welcome to stop me anytime you feel comfortable and ask questions. So a historical perspective of this 1437-year-old tradition called Islam. Where was it born? How did it evolve over the course of last 1400 plus years? And I added a quick outline for this. Muhammad, known to Muslims as Prophet Muhammad, he was born in 570, died in 632, and he is considered as last in the line of the Judeo-Christian prophets, who we will talk about more. And the revelation through Archangel Gabriel, you see the first connection between the Christian tradition and the Islamic tradition now, that Muhammad received the revelation from divine through Archangel Gabriel, which is documented in a book called Quran. Now the historical context at the time in Arabia was paganism. People practiced paganism, and Islam brought the monotheism, or rather restored monotheism in the Judeo-Christian tradition. And of course, it also altered and changed the socio-religious order. So slavery was rampant, for example, at the time. And this man, Muhammad, comes and says, a child of a slave can marry the daughter of a master. And this disrupted essentially the status quo, the social system of the time, and as a result he was severely persecuted, as all prophets are. So this is a timeline. 570 he was born, 610 he proclaimed prophecy, and 632 he passed away, so lifespan of about 62 years. And now the context from this little land called Mecca, how Islam spread all over the place. The myth is that it spread by sword, right? That's Fox 11 version. And I want to quickly run through how it all expanded throughout the region. So 638 it goes through Levant, or Syria, Palestine, Lebanon, Iraq. 641 it enters into Egypt. 655 into North Africa. 711 into Spain and India, which is where I come from. And now this particular period I like us to make a note of, from 711 to 1492, almost 700 plus years. The closest and the longest encounter of Islam with the West. This is the time where Muslims, Christians, and Jews contributed collectively to the human civilization that perhaps has no other parallel. This is called the Golden Age, where people were not at each other's throats, but rather at each other's feet to learn from each other. A fantastic time and a great way for you to explore this golden age of Andalusia. And then it continues on, it goes to African continent, then 1099, yes please.
Yeah, when you say that they contribute to society, yeah, they did contribute to society, but my understanding was that the Christians were always trying to get back the control of Andalusia and southern Spain.
Sure.
So it was like, yeah, we are together, but we want you out of here. Because they were so happy when Isabella and Fernando were able to get control of Granada and say, well, this is our land again.
Sure.
So how
sure.
do you put that golden age in a time where, and then they kick out the Jews, so how was that a golden age when they were, we are together, but we really don't want to be together?
Yeah. So essentially you're saying, yeah, we were not a happy family at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there are certainly instances where there was a geopolitical tension between the quote unquote the Arabs coming from the Arab land into Spain, and then Spain inherently wanted to throw them out and stay back. Certainly those were tensions, but if you look at the 700-year history, you would see that the science and technology and literature and poetry and culture and so on and so forth blossomed during that era. That's basically what I meant. Now in 1099, sorry.
I think it's important to point out that it was the ruling class of the Catholics, the Spanish kings, that were fighting the Reconquista. That it wasn't, they enlisted the masses, but we shouldn't assume that this is a mass revolt against the Muslims in Spain. Okay, I mean, we need to have a class perspective on this. I think we'll look at that.
I have a whole lot to cover, so some of these details, so to speak, can certainly further our conversations even more greatly. But I like to get into the actual substance, which is about Islam itself, right? The geopolitical conflicts and tensions and contributions has so many perspectives and so many views.
Yes, very quickly. It's all relative. The term golden age is relative. We mean a golden age for whom? But you have to remember, in that period of time, even though the Muslims or the Christians were at power, the Moors or the Christians, that under the Islam there was a protected communities. And even though some groups may be quote-unquote second level citizens, that's part of the norm of society. They were protected minorities, and they flourished under that system. So you have to understand that system that creates this diversity and this tolerance and this creativity in this golden age, which is also something, a term that we can debate.
So moving on, talk of tensions. In 1099, Crusaders take Jerusalem from Muslims. And then in 1177, Muslims retake Jerusalem from Crusaders. So you see the tension going on, retaking regions from people. 1299, Ottoman state in Anatolia. 1453, Ottomans conquered the Byzantine, changed Constantinople to Istanbul that we now know. 1800, approximately 30% Africans forced into slavery by us, United States. And 1870 to 1924, you see Muslims coming from different parts of the Arab world into United States. And 1918, World War I, 24, Ottoman Empire dissolves. 1930, in US, this Nation of Islam thing comes up. and 39 World War II, 65 revisions to Immigration Act, which brings a great deal of people from Middle East and South Asia, and I'm a product of this 1965 Immigration Act. My brother came here in 64. When you see a whole lot of South Asians, Muslims, Hindus, Christians, Sikhs coming into US is because of the 65 Immigration Act. We lacked a great many professions here, so we were lured, literally. We were given immigration access to the country in the platter, so to speak, unlike the challenges we have today in the context of immigration. So that essentially is a quick 1400 plus year history capsulated in 3 slides and 2 minutes. Now, what is really Islam, right? Islam as a faith, as a tradition, what exactly it is. So the root of the word Islam is salam, right? Which means peace, and now peace is also subjective. My children say that when they listen to iPod 14 hours a day, that's peace. To some, it may be something else, going on a hiking trail. Now, in the religious context, Islam essentially means peace through submitting themselves, surrendering themselves to all that God likes. So you acquire that inner peace when your heart and soul is aligned with the divine. I think which is what I said. Right. In the religious context, it means attaining peace through submission to the natural order created by the one compassionate God. So Islam has this book called Quran, similar to Old Testament, New Testament, Bhagavad Gita, and all of these texts, scriptures, divine texts. It's in Arabic language, and this is compiled over a period of time during the time of Prophet Muhammad, revealed to him through Archangel Gabriel, and this is compiled in Arabic language. And the words of this text continues to remain the same from the time it was revealed unto now, and of course there is a science around it as to how that's secured. So I have a couple of different things in between here, just to give you a flavor of what it looks like, what it sounds like. So this is how it's recited. Anyway, so I just wanted to show you a simple clip of how it sounds in the Arabic language. And of course, it has the English translation and translation in many other languages, but this is the scripture. So think of this as we are in a church and listening to the choir, or in a synagogue where a cantor recites Torah, and so on. Who is Prophet Muhammad? As we mentioned before, he was born in Mecca, and like all other prophets, he was a human being, commissioned by or tasked by or sent by God to remind all of us that there is one true creator of all of us, and that we all are expected to work together collaboratively, cooperatively to build a life, a society, a world which is harmonious, which is helpful, which is productive, which is meaningful, which is peaceful for all of us. That's the essence of the prophetic teachings, which is the secondary or the second primary source. So Muslims refer to and acquire Quranic principles as a primary source, and a secondary complementary source is the prophetic teachings that they refer to. And these are the basic Islamic beliefs. So first is the proclamation that God is one, creator of all of us. There are no two gods, there are no three gods, there is only one God who created all of us. Muslims, Christians, Jews, atheists, agnostics, Hindus, Buddhists, Baha'is, doesn't matter. And this is the central, I believe, belief aspect of the Islamic tradition. Monotheism, essentially. So you will see a great deal of similarity between the Judaic tradition and the Islamic tradition. If you go into the synagogue or a mosque, you wouldn't see any images. So they are very sensitive to the monotheistic aspect by virtue of not having any image. So the significant difference between Christianity and Islam and Christianity and Judaism is the aspect of Trinity and the monotheistic perspective. This is a major difference. The second is that Muslims also believe in the books that were revealed by divine, Torah, Injil, Bible, and Quran. Muslims consider these to be a continuum rather than separate. They are not contradictory to each other, but they are complementary to each other. And that there are reasons why there were three, of course, and we can discuss that as well. Muslims do believe in all the prophets, and I've listed some of them. So the only distinction of Muhammad is not that he was very special or he was different than the prophets who came before, but he was the last. That's his only distinction. And Muslims are required to believe in the prophets who brought other scriptures and traditions prior to him. They don't have an option in that regard. Their belief is incomplete, in other words. So it's a central belief, or part of central belief system. Muslims also believe in the Day of Judgment, that on someday we all will be brought together and asked, what did we do, what did we not do in our lives? What did we do with our time and resources and intellect and so on. Perhaps it would be interesting to invoke Mark Twain, who said there are two most important days in everyone's life. One is the day when you're born, and the other day is when you die. Because then you would discover, why were you born to begin with? Because we will be asked, we'll be held accountable perhaps. And then indeed that there are angels who also are created by God, and here you see similarity, with a great deal of similarity with Christianity as well, particularly Catholic, Roman Catholic tradition. Now the key practices of Islam. So how do we transfer or translate those basic beliefs into the practices by virtue of doing things? So first is we proclaim, verbally we proclaim that there is no deity worthy of worship except one God, and that Prophet Muhammad is his messenger. That's all there is to it, essentially. So if you repeat this after me, you all will become Muslim today. No, I'm kidding.